my name is Amanda Feuk, and this is my build this year. I have done the previous shadow piece I did, and the first one I did is the silhouette, the girl silhouette. And it's been a couple years, and I don't like to do the same thing over and over again. But I thought, I can push this farther than I did with that one. That was the first thing I'd never tried anything like that. So I decided, what could I do? How could I push it? I wanted a full story this time from, something that kind of tie everything in. Last time there was just kind of a light in front of everything else. And so I attempted a small storyline of kind of me or many children, hopefully still, reading books. I used to pile books up around me all the time when I was really little. I'm like a castle of books. And then I went in, and the idea that the imagination has taken the words and made it into a visible picture in shadows, I guess. So this time I did a much more complicated outside of the silhouette, obviously. And then I also wanted to attempt a inner negative space figure, which is the knight.
The rest is too easy, obviously. You have to add something else.
It's just that idea of trying to push the art farther and farther. But that was interesting. Originally, the knight, I wanted to be much larger and take up more space of the shadow. But I ran into a couple issues. My original thought was to do the muzzle and the bulk of the head in more plate, because it's going to be lighter. And what ended up happening is the head weighed enough that it was pulling everything forward, because obviously you can't support the jaw and the top of the head. Like, it all has to just stick out into the air, open space. And so because of the amount of support I had to put in there to counterbalance, that became a issue. So the knight became a little smaller. I ended up liking it. Kind of was like a little hidden surprise gem. But on top of it has also made it more proportional to the dragon. But yeah.
So when you start on a build like this, obviously, you see the complete picture now, but you've got to put all these various different pieces in just the right place for that. So how do you kind of plan this, and where do you start with as you figure out exactly how the image is coming together?
So on this one, I learned my lesson. I put the light and made it a part of the build so it could not move, because that was the biggest issue last time, is it can rotate, and I didn't take that into account, and it took like forever to put back together when I got here. And so in this one, I did the same as I did last time, and I did a quick sketch of what I wanted it to roughly look like. And I usually start with the outside shapes, and I just started kind of playing with things. One of the biggest things you have to take into account when doing these, for anyone who else wants to attempt one, and challenge your insanity, is the fact that the Lego pieces are obviously plastic, and they throw caustics and bounce light and caustics, I should say. And so certain pieces will cause reflections in the shadow. So actually the bottom of the jaw has a little bit of that blue reflection happening. And I actually enjoyed that. I thought it was kind of a nice feeling. It gave kind of an interesting look to it. I'm like, actually, I'm going to leave that, because I kind of played with it for about an hour one day going, I want this gone. And I came back to it, and I'm like, actually, I don't mind that. And it made it easier. And so, yeah, I just start building out the outside. You have to take into account also the farther away from the board or where you're projecting, the fuzzier the shadow gets. So I had to make this one quite a bit denser than my last one as well, because it was more complicated, obviously, as well. But yeah, start on the outside, work your way out. Once I had the outside shape, I marked very carefully where each of the things went, pulled them off of from the back on the neck side of the dragon, and then worked on the interior for the guy. So, and my dad came around and he's like, hey, you should do some more than just the eye one color. And I'm like, that would be cool. And so I made the knight blue and had a yellow sword, kind of the flaming, so I don't know what it's supposed to be exactly, but we'll go.
You got flames. So what pieces did you use to add some of that color in there?
All the transparent pieces. The knight is actually done by a half dome panel, and then just a couple of 1x2 trans yellow bricks on top. I think they're just the yellow. They're not the neon yellow. I'd have to look at them a little more carefully. I guess I didn't pay that much attention. And then I had a bunch of these, the kind of the, I don't know what part I guess they're the panel with that curves to the top. I'm sure there's a technical name, and it changes on every single site you go to. I had a bunch of those from some lady who was nice enough, and she's like, hey, I saw your thing on actually your show, one of the last ones, I think the tiger one. It's like, you do Lego, that's neat. I don't want these. I'm like, sold.
I'm glad we could help you out.
I appreciate it. I haven't had a chance to thank you for that. She gave me like 2 grocery bags, so I was like, oh, neat. Thank you. And so I used those, and that's causing the orange. And then the large flame piece, the multicolored flame piece, is making the flames. I was trying to do something a little bit more abstract, but I couldn't find anything that was tall and skinny enough to just give an impression of the flame without causing more caustics in the dark spots in the caustics because of their depth of the piece. So I went, you know what? A flame is casting a flame-ish shadow. We're going to go with it. I try to be a little bit more abstract usually, but sometimes you just got to go with what you got, you know? That's the joys of working with Lego is you don't change it, you know? You work with the pieces you have and make it work for you.
Right. And it works out well in the end. So when you bring this to a show, then none of these pieces are set up and you have it marked?
No. So actually, the first time I did it, it was very roughly marked with a ton of pictures, and it didn't work at all. It was horrible, like I said before, put together. And I can actually show you with this one. What I did here, I just took a little piece of sticker and marked the number of, where it came, and there on the base, it's also marked. And they all sit flat in a bucket and came back to it. And then they just pop on there. I also took a lot of notes to be like, okay, this one has to be pushed forward a little bit on the studs. This one has to push back a little bit on the studs. One thing with the caustics like I was talking about, I put on all the lights I could when I was building this, knowing that this place has crazy amounts of lights, obviously, to try to take care of a lot of those issues with caustics and reflections and all that before I got here. For the most part, it worked. The one thing, though, that didn't work, and what I thought was interesting, I'll just show you quick. This is way off, and you can see it's splitting the shadow. The light is splitting there. It's bouncing in a couple of different areas, and so the hilt is all kind of muddied. And so the simple fix was just pulling this way a little bit, and poof. So it's not on stud. There are a couple of cases where they're pushed forward a little bit, pushed back, but that one's pretty extreme, where it's just kind of hanging there. And that wasn't happening at my house, so I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah.
Well, it's another fantastic build. I always love seeing what you bring to the shows here, so thank you so much for the time and effort you put into this, and glad you could display it here at Brickworld. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.